Is 2021 the year of the security token? Well, we'll find out this and a little bit of more about one company that's really making their mark in the space. Welcome to BeInCrypto. My name is Jessica Walker, and if you are new to this channel, please subscribe and help support the channel. Now, joining me, I have Douglas Borthwick, Chief Marketing Officer and Head of Business Development at INX. So, Douglas, great to talk to you today. How are you?
Great to be here, Jessica. How are you?
Yeah, really good, thank you. And it's a really exciting time to be discussing security tokens, which is going to be the topic of today, because 2021 is quite a booming year for security tokens, no?
Well, I'd say the last 3 years, it's been a sleepy backwater in that the only people allowed to buy security tokens have been wealthy people, accredited investors, and then a couple of retail folks. And what we want to do and what we've been doing is, we did the first ever IPO of a security token on the blockchain. And we allowed retail folks for the first time to get involved in a platform like ourselves and actually, reap the benefits from that. And that we link that in our security token. And we're going to go live with that very, very soon with that platform. And we bought a company called Open Finance in that space as well. And so there's a lot of exciting things that we're doing to get everybody involved in this, not just rich folks.
Amazing. And I'm going to have to ask you now, because if it is accessible to everyone, I think a really good starting question for people that are watching is to just define what is a security token. What is the phrase? What does it mean?
Well, I think for your watchers, a security token, the simplest way to think of it is it's a digital security. That all the trades you can see happening on the blockchain, but also it trades 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It doesn't close like the New York Stock Exchange or NASDAQ, and you can self-custody. You don't have to keep it at an exchange. It's going to tell you, sorry, you can't sell it today, or you can't buy today. You can keep it yourself on your own wallet and walk around with it. And so it also has things like, built-in KYC AML. Let's say you lose your Bitcoin. Well, you've lost it. You forget your password, you've lost your Bitcoin. But with a security token, if you lose your INX security token, guess what? We'll delete the old ones and give you new ones. Because you can't lose your IRA or your 401k in the United States. You can't lose a security. And so we've figured out a lot of different things with smart contracts to make sure that we always know who the owners are. If something happens, we can always replace it. If there's a boating accident, we can get you your INX tokens back. And, we're trying to make things simpler, but around the world, folks want to own a lot of different things that have been out of their reach. And old masters paintings out of reach, racehorses out of reach, movies out of reach, being able to invest in all these things that traditionally in the old days, only the wealthy could afford to do that. Or even traditional equities are out of reach for a lot of folks around the world. If you're in India, getting enough money to pay for the average cost of a US equity, that could be a month's salary. But fractional ownership, which is what security tokens bring, not just to equities, but also to fractional ownership of cash streams, fractional ownership of IP, all of these sorts of things now are able to be traded by retail for the first time, thanks to the way that we put together our security token with the SEC. In the old days, it was sort of like, you had to be in a country club to buy a security token. And what we're doing is we're making it so that anybody can buy a security token.
It sounds like I probably asked you the wrong question of, is 2021 the year of security tokens? I probably should have asked you, is 2021 the year of a retail investor? Because it sounds like right now there's a lot of possibilities that maybe weren't something that was achievable 10 years ago, for example.
Well, for sure. In order for an asset class to mature, it's got to open up the doors, right? I mean, if you want golf to be important, guess what? Don't make it just for old men. You got to make it for women as well and for everybody. And the same thing with security tokens with asset classes. You can't just keep it for the elite, for the country club members. You've got to make it so that everyone can be a part of it. And that's then going to build something that's been lacking in the security token industry, and that's liquidity. Maybe most platforms have 10 or 20,000 accredited investors right now that are signed up to trade, and maybe only a tenth of that come in every day to trade or to look at where prices are. And that's why the average daily volume in security tokens in the US is only like $1 million. That's probably the average daily volume of the Subway sandwich store downstairs from me in Manhattan. And that's not really an asset class or a market. And what we wanted to do is let's bring in millions of people. Let's bring in all the retail guys trading on our crypto trading platform and say, hey, look, press this tab, now you can trade security tokens. And being able to do that on a 24-hour basis, 7 days a week, I think it's going to open up this asset class to everybody. And once you open the doors, you don't have that trickle of fast, rich people's money. Now we're going to have everyone's money. It's very exciting.
It sounds so, and it sounds like this is something that's very, very close around the corner. So tell us a little bit more about INX, which is the company you're representing, and what we're expecting from them, and really what mark they're going to leave in their security token space.
Sure. So INX is a company that I joined about 18 months ago. It was formed by a guy called Shai Datika out in Tel Aviv, Israel. And I'd heard about this guy that was putting together, working with the SEC to create the first ever security token IPO in the blockchain. And really, that's a lot of mumbo jumbo. What it means is, though, he wanted to do a digital security that could trade 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with no lockup periods that even retail could buy. And I thought this was the craziest thing that I'd ever heard, because that meant then that Nike could move onto the blockchain and Amazon could move onto the blockchain, and suddenly we could get 24-hour trading of equities. Early investors were guys like Charlie Lee behind Litecoin or Ricardo Spagni behind Monero. So that's what two of the top 5 cryptocurrencies involved with this platform. I'm joined in the US by Alan Silbert. You may know that name quite well if you're in the crypto space. And then I'm also joined by Jonathan Azroual. Jonathan is a French guy who came up with a company called BSave, and BSave is the first time in Europe that you could lend and borrow Bitcoin. He ended up selling it to Celsius, but it became actually Celsius. And so we've got a lot of folks that are very involved in the crypto space, joining up with guys from the traditional space. And my background was Morgan Stanley for a lot of time, Standard Chartered, running prop trading at Merrill Lynch. Mine was more of a traditional background in finance, but I'm also joined by David Wheeland, who's the vice chairman of NASDAQ, Nick Dedaney, who's the CEO of the Toronto Stock Exchange, Tom Lewis, who's the CEO of Ameritrade, the largest retail platform in the US for trading equities. So we've got all of this sort of old guard, or OG for crypto, along with OG for legacy, coming together to build something that's absolutely all about regulation and regulations first, working with the SEC, with the regulators, to make sure that we're giving folks a level playing field to trade on for the first time in the crypto space. And we decided to do it in such a way that you can shine a flashlight on us, a big light, and you can see everything. With the most transparent company in the space. We've got a prospectus sitting on the Edgar database. That's the SEC's database. You can see how much I make, how much all my colleagues make, all of our advisors. Who are they? What do they make? There's what's our game plan? What do we end up wanting to do with the money in our IPO right now? Absolutely everything about our company is transparent and open. And because we thought that this space, the blockchain space and crypto in particular, needed to have a little bit of the grayness taken out of it. Because if you want everyone in the world to partake in this, and not just the 0.5% of US that right now has electronic wallets, but everyone, you got to take away the gray areas. You got to make sure that people have information and that they can ask you questions and they can come back. And, a lot of companies out there in this space, you've got no idea who owns it. They call themselves decentralized, but sometimes they're centralized. You just don't know who owns it. You don't know if someone says this is a great place that you should be putting your money in. You've no idea if they're getting paid by that firm to say that. So there's so much gray area, and we just wanted to have something that we thought to be the most transparent company that could exist.
And you said that you're based out of Manhattan, so I'm curious as to how things are on the ground in thriving areas of America when it comes to transparency, as you said, regulation, and those two working hand in hand with cryptocurrency and blockchain companies. It sounds like it's going to attract a new wave of investors and people that are looking to learn a little bit more, potentially even adoption.
Absolutely. I mean, if you think about the crypto market, if only 0.5% of the US has an electronic wallet today, and I would say that maybe 50% will in the next year. And that's because the OCC, the Office of Comptroller and Currency, came out and said, guys, instead of using ACH and SWIFT wire transfers, we want you guys to use stable coins like USDC. I'm sure you saw this morning, that Visa is going to be using USDC, or PayPal, and like everyone's using USDC or stable coins. Well, when stable coins are adopted, that means that people start opening up electronic wallets. So to go from 0.5% of the US that knows what a digital security is, now to go into maybe 50 or 60%, the growth is going to be absolutely huge in this space. And the old, back in the 80s or 90s, the job for minimum wage employees was to go work at McDonald's or fast food. And I think for the next 10 years, it's going to be onboarding at crypto trading companies. Because, if you think of the companies in the US today, there's Coinbase, there's Kraken, there's Gemini. These guys are all bursting at the seams already. Think of them as restaurants bursting at the seams, standing room only. There's no seats and the chefs are going crazy. Every time Bitcoin makes a new high, you get a flash that comes out and says, hey guys, sorry, our servers are down. So we're opening up a new restaurant on the street. Our servers are brand new. No one's sitting in the chairs right now. And we expect the folks are going to come in the door and say, hey, you know what? We like this updated menu. It's not so bad. We like the transparency. And the users in ours can actually own part of the profits because that's the way we set up our security token. Now, if you trade at Coinbase today in your retail, sure, you can invest in Coinbase at $100 billion valuation. Because when Coinbase when Coinbase first raised money, they didn't go to the general public like we did. They went to VCs and private equity. And then they only thought of the retail guy when the private equity and the VC wanted to get an exit strategy. So they said, you know what, it's worth 100 billion, we'll sell it to retail at that price. And at INX, we said, look, when we go out to raise money, we're not going to go to VCs and private equity. We're going to go directly to the people that are going to trade in our platform. So when you come on in the door, invest in us, and every time you trade, you get 40% of the profits. And that's, mind blowing to some folks who normally can't get into it. If you, let's say you trade on Gemini, who does well there? Well, the twins do. And I watch the Social Network. It seems to me those guys have a lot of money already. So we wanted to bring essentially like the people's exchange to folk where they can come in, they can buy security tokens in INX, knowing that when people trade on our platform, guess what? They're going to benefit from that. And they're going to go out there and they're going to tell their friends to trade on our platform. And I'm going to build up this whole marketing group of all the token holders who are going to go out to all the social media and say, you know what, guys, come trade at INX. And I think that that's really important is let's go out there and give something to the people and let folks actually get in the door on the ground floor with crypto trading platforms, because mostly you don't get the opportunity until the IPO at $100 billion valuation.
So talk me through the user experience then. So you go live very soon, you mentioned. What kind of things would I expect then as a user?
Well, as a user, you got to come in, you got to go through KYC AML. Now, that's normal in the United States, but outside of the US borders, that's not always normal. And a lot of folks get in trouble for that. But on top of that, when you come into us, you're not going to find a lot of these, what are called utility tokens that you're going to find at other places. The reason being, I think a lot of companies ran out the gate and said, this is a utility token without even thinking about it. And they did it because they thought they'd attract folks to their platform. But the reality is a lot of these utility tokens are probably would be deemed as securities by the SEC in the next couple of years. So we're only going to list things that we know are either cryptocurrencies, utility tokens, or stable coins. That's on the crypto trading side. And on the security token trading side, anything that's registered with the SEC would be listing there. And so we'll have public companies listed there that aren't found on a national exchange. We'll have private companies as well, all listed in a tokenized format. And all of this stuff you can self-custody. And you'll be able to go back and forth between the crypto trading company and the security token trading company, going back and forth essentially using a KYC AML password. So you don't have to log into one, then log into the other. It's all going to be under one umbrella.
Very cool. And so upcoming dates then for 2021, what kind of things do you have in store from availability to the public to when you're looking to kind of launch and finally go live? I think it's soon, no?
Well, it's soon, but it's not something that I can tell you. Until we set a PR or we file it with the SEC, we can't say. But I would say it certainly is soon. And maybe by the time you're publishing this, we'll put some PR out there. But look, for us, it's exciting because we see this as being, it's sort of there's a huge wave that's happening in the United States right now. That this movement into crypto is sort of like the movement into cell phones. If your viewers Google cell phone adoption in the US, they'll see for the first 10 years, 85 to 95, no one had a cell phone, no one wanted it. And your mother would say, don't get one, you get brain cancer. And that's what everyone thought. But then from 1995, from 95 until today, now there's, I think, 1.4 cell phones or smartphones for every person in America. Adoption happens very, very quickly. First, they make fun of it. Then they say, I don't think it's going to happen. And then it absolutely explodes. And we for sure know that this is about to become a huge phenomenon. And think about this. If only 0.5% of the US right now has a crypto wallet, and already all the guys in the business are bursting at the seams, when it goes from 0.5 to 0.6, that's a 20% change. That's huge. I think it's going to go not from 0.5 to 0.6, but from 0.5 to 60%. And that's absolutely humongous. And so the opportunity in this space is going to be tremendous. The ecosystem that's going to grow around digital is going to be tremendous. And look, you're in the right spot. I'm in the right spot. And I hope your viewers understand that this is, it's going to be pretty exciting.
Absolutely. So where can people go to find out more? Do you have any social media or websites that we can direct them to if they are watching this and do want to find out a little bit more information?
For sure we do. If you want to buy tokens, it's at token.inx.co. To learn about the company, inx.co. And there's a Telegram group called INX Community, where we're sitting all day long looking to answer everyone's questions.
Fantastic. Well, Douglas, thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to hearing more about this, and thank you for sharing your insights today. It was a pleasure.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. Cheers.
Amazing. Thank you. Well, that's all for myself and Douglas. We'd love to hear how you found this interview. Share your thoughts in the comments below, what your thought is on security tokens throughout the rest of the year, and if it's where your eyes are at the moment.